This season, there'll be two Frankenstein musicals on the boards. The first is the Mel Brooks, which is based on his comic film Young Frankenstein, which is getting ready to open at the Hilton Theater. The other one is the more serious adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic novel entitled Frankenstein the Musical, which will open on October 4th at 37 Arts. It stars Hunter Foster as Dr. Victor Frankenstein, Jim Stanek as Henry, Christiane Nall as Elizabeth, and Steve Blanchard as the monster. Broadway Beat was invited to a very special rehearsal presentation, so here's a sneak peek at Frankenstein the Musical.
Well, the initial attraction came from the opportunity to work on something where everyone would know the title. I mean, every man, woman, and child has some awareness of the title Frankenstein, but so few people truly know that original story. So there's the familiar, but yet a chance to surprise people, and you don't get that chance too often.
And what are some of the things you wanted to take from the book to put on stage, and what were the challenges for you with working with Mark on this musical?
The book is a difficult one to adapt. The language is very dense, and often key ideas about it are missed and are in the subtext more than in the text itself. And it took us a lot of long, hard work over years to write it and rewrite it and rewrite it till we feel that we finally connected with the emotional core of it.
And talk about collaborating with Mark on this project.
It's been great. We've become best friends. We bicker, you know. There's things we disagree on, but we help each other out. It's almost it should almost just be one credit for both of us, because not a word that I write goes in it without him helping to shape it, and we work together on musical passages as well. You know.
And talk about what you think the story is really about.
It's really about responsibility, I think. Too often, the Frankenstein myth, and that's really what it's ascended to as a myth, has been condensed to the shorthand of, oh, science is bad. And that's not really true. That's not the message I want to put out. I think science is a wonderful thing. We all live by it every day, but it needs to be practiced with humanity, and there are consequences for acting without thinking things through.
You're not going to find a man, woman, or child on the planet who doesn't have some preconceived idea of what Frankenstein is. So that was just so wonderfully intriguing to me to do that, and that was how I got into it. Once I was here, the more you just dive into it and you peel the layers of that onion, I've now fallen in love with the work so unbelievably. I mean, I think it just rings so strong with so many different levels that are happening within the story.
Talk about your collaboration with Jeffrey.
Jeff and I have actually a wonderful collaboration. We, besides the working relationship, we're actually very good friends on the outside. Our wives are the best of friends. But as we're writing, even when we started this about a year and a half ago with this version, every bit of music or every bit of book and lyrics, we sat in a room and did it together. I mean, it was really giving ideas for each other. It wasn't, okay, well, here's some things, now go off and do this. All right, here's some music, now go off and put that. So we have a great relationship with being able to work together in that way. And we really, with this piece especially, we really kind of both see exactly clear what the path is and what we thought it should be.
Your music is absolutely gorgeous. Is there a tone you set to how you wanted the score to sound?
Completely. Right from the get-go, knowing it was going to be a Frankenstein, it knew it had to have those elements of darkness throughout. But I really wanted to go for not just that gothic horror type of thing. I always wanted to keep that idea of that excitement. So you hear a lot of the accompaniment going in. This is a lot of really quick pattern type of stuff going on to really keep you on the edge of your seat, feeling like it's moving, it's moving, it's moving. Obviously, you're going to have your moments that get a little bit lighter here and there for things like that, but I really wanted to keep that forward momentum going. So when you're sitting here for your 2 hours, you're not stopping and saying, okay, now I have a break. You know, I wanted to almost not give people a break.
A brilliant mind, such gifted hands, a master of his art, and yet he still can't understand the workings of the heart. You need not face this world alone, or keep your secrets locked inside. Love can weather any storm if you trust in you and I. Elizabeth is Victor's fiance, then wife. She's the Victorian heroine visually, but that's sort of where it stops, and I'm really trying to get into sort of the modern elements of her strength and her sensuality, which you wouldn't necessarily picture. But Mary Shelley was the first feminist, and so she had initially envisioned this role around her. Not this role, but the character. When she wrote it the first time, she was sort of describing herself, and then 6 years later she wrote a second edition of the novel, and she got nervous that people were going, you wrote yourself into this book. So she completely changed it. So when you read the edition now, she's this blue-eyed blonde angelic thing, which is so not where I am anymore and not what I want to play with. So I was thrilled to have found and been able to read some of the original descriptions of her, and I said, well, that's where I'm going, into that modern woman thing, where she's strong and she knows a lot and she is not afraid to speak her mind and very smart. And
I'm playing Henry Clerval. It would be good if I could say it clearly. Henry Clerval. I am Victor Frankenstein's best friend from childhood, and we go two different ways. He goes towards the sciences, and I go to the religious arts, basically. I go into the priesthood. That's a choice that we made to give a strong moral through line to the show. I love it because I think I'm going to be sharing the conscience of most of the audience, and those that I don't share it with will probably hate me, which is great. I would love that. Henry is on the side of life, and he's saying, why are you playing with it? Who are you to decide who lives, who dies? Who are you to decide who gets sick and who doesn't? And we know very well that is a huge issue in society today. And Mary Shelley was talking about this 200 years ago. And here we're discussing it again, I think, in great detail. Other shows that I've done in the past put plot lines on the stage. I think we're putting themes on the stage. I think we're putting real questions that we're posing to the audience throughout the evening, but without being preachy. I just think saying, where do you stand? What do you think about this? What do you think about? Because these days we're cloning sheep and cloning other things. We're not too far removed from what Victor Frankenstein was working on.
Well, first and foremost, the thing that pops out at you in this version of Shelley's novel is his quest to be a man. He just wants to be a man and wants to be loved and wants to find that soul, that spirit that's gone. I mean, that thing that we wake up every day and assume's there is gone. And he's just a shell of flesh and blood and muscle. And that quest to find it is fascinating. It's just absolutely fascinating. Very pained and tortured. And we sort of combined different kind of embryonic, adolescent, toddler phases for the creature, as if he literally had to learn to do everything all over again, as well as various ailments and abnormalities that would afflict someone who has been dead.
So talk about the rehearsal process of what that's been like with discovering him.
Tough. And I mean, I asked Bill, I said, listen, come at me with everything you got. I mean, come at me with everything you got and push me beyond belief, because I want to really dig into this guy and really feel that stuff. And we did a lot of improv and a lot of exercises, and it feels good to go home every day and not be tortured in pain, because after 2 hours of that, you're pretty much done.
Now here I stand, a half of a man, wondering why I draw breath. I'm here in a waking nightmare, and every moment tastes of death.
Well, I think it's very complex. I think that most people, when they come see, they remember the original black and white film or any other incarnation of it, they kind of, I think people don't understand there's a real humanity with Victor and what happens with the creature, and he sets out to do something good. He's not a mad scientist or anything. He's really trying to. The idea is that he wants to bring his mother back from the dead, and that his whole reason for creating this monster is to try to find a way that he can bring loved ones back from the dead, and I guess make people immortal would be the idea. In the Shelley novel, these characters are very, very complex, and she had some great themes going on, and she was very young when she wrote the novel. But it's about man and his creator and God, and father and son, which I think is a great theme. It's about when you create something in the world and your responsibility to that creation, and if we don't take care of what we create, then bad things can happen. Or if we ignore those creations, because we create monsters every day. Our country creates wars, we create demons in our own lives, and it's how we deal with them that can lead to tragedy or to overcome them. And I think that's such a great theme with this show, is that because he doesn't take responsibility for his creation, it leads to tragedy.
I've always been fascinated by things in our culture that are icons that you can sort of revisit and really kind of get to the core of what they are. Anything that's iconic. And when they brought the piece to me, I think I'm kind of a Joe average audience member in a lot of ways, and I had that sort of aha moment where I went, oh, wait a minute, Frankenstein's not the green monster. He's the man who created this other man to sort of undo the loss of his mother. And I thought, that's a gorgeous story. And I talked to the writers in our first phone call. I said, well, if I'm going to work on the piece, I feel very strongly about 2 points. One is that he's never green, and 2 is that he creates another man to undo this great wrong, to fill this tremendous void. And they got on board immediately, and I thought, okay, here we go. Let's have at it, and let's really play with this, and let's play with structure, and let's play with form, based off of classic ideas of storytelling, and use the power of this form, theater, to tell the story as best we can. So we took a lot of the major events that you would normally see in a movie, like the lab scene, and it's all off stage, and it allows the audience to create their terror, what they fear the most, because I think we create our own monsters because of things we A, don't understand, and B, don't see. So we create our personal terrors, and that's what I think we can do on this.